If you want to get to the maze, you've got to earn it.
Where the edges of the last frontier are crumbling away.
Standing at a place like this, you really see just how much there is out there. And it's just right there hidden. Driving by on the road, you have no idea what's waiting over here. I ended up in the role of not just working at the maze, but being the supervisor of the maze. It was a dream come true. It's almost like the path kind of evolved right before me, and all I needed to do was to make the choices or take the opportunities as they were presented. I had started as a park ranger down in West Texas as a seasonal ranger. I've always had an affinity for the Colorado Plateau and canyon country. Also being a sedimentary geologist before this, you know, I'm just fascinated by landscapes that are carved out of sedimentary rock. The maze is named after the canyon system that the district is centered on. It was always held in this kind of sacred place as one of the most, you know, isolated, remote, and purest expressions of wilderness in the Southwest.
Feels so alien sometimes, so inhospitable, and it's hard to think about life in human terms when you're surrounded by something that so obviously exists independently from us. To me, I think the maze represents a certain kind of wildness, of remoteness and isolation. You can have these spots like this that are just its own little world and nothing gets out there.
French's Spring is probably the only real reliable water source up here on the mesa top.
I mean, life follows water, and everything kind of follows water, and it all centers around the springs in these little pockets throughout the Canyonlands. Yeah, in a dry environment like this, I mean, water is just so important.
Probably the biggest impact is the feral livestock. Even just a dozen, you know, wild burros, they're going to be drinking a lot of water out of a small source like this. It can really have a tremendous impact on just the immediate area around the spring here. Everything from trampling the ground and the vegetation here immediately around the water to, you know, leaving manure kind of all over the hillside here and down in the drainage. It changes the scene quite a bit. In fact, I can't think of anything that has a bigger impact.
I mean, it's a harsh enough landscape. If you're surviving just on the brink of death, sometimes it just takes those extra impacts to really push you over the edge. Kind of that death from 1,000 cuts.
Well, I think probably one of the things that makes the Great Gallery so significant as far as being the iconic Barrier Canyon pictograph site is its sheer size and magnitude. I mean, the site itself is over 100 yards long, and there are dozens of figures, and the scale of those figures they exceed life size. So they're significant for the peoples whose ancestors actually painted the pictographs, and protecting them for those people, honoring their presence on the land and their role in the story of this land is important. I feel privileged to get to serve for a short period of time as a steward for these very special places. One of the things I really like about the new panels we've got up at the trailhead is, you know, it gives the native perspective. When you approach a place like this, they say a prayer, acknowledging the spirits that still live here. In a lot of ways, just be polite and say, hello, we're here, we come in respect, and we're glad to be here.
We have 4 main galleries in the canyon, and to me, each one of them has its own feeling. And this one, because of the sheer size, not only of the extent of the images, but the sizes of the images themselves, definitely has a personality flavor that I don't find anywhere else in the Southwest. These were living human beings that we can relate to that did this, and we want to preserve what they did.
One of the things I try to do whenever I approach one of these sites is to put myself in a space of reverence and respect, because I know that these are significant places. Our main strategy in trying to protect places like this is trying to build a spirit of stewardship. The volunteers who work here, they're the majority of the Park Service presence here in the canyon. People like Jim and the other volunteers that come out here play a huge role in protecting this place. They educate people, help them to develop that sense of stewardship out here.
The best way to protect these things is through education.
I try to cultivate that sense of gratitude, respect, and hey, thanks for letting me visit here.
The maze represents a certain kind of principle, a certain feeling. It's kind of one of these last holdouts that represents wilderness and represents self-reliance and represents the world as it was and always has been before we started meddling with it.
Everybody's going to walk away with a different impression or experience of this place. But I would hope that they would walk away with a sense of humility and respect, not just for the art, but for the place itself.